Skin Deep, written and narrated by Saffron Bryant. Chapter 10. A week after Ravyn first sent out her video, Leaky lumbered through the door, leaving a trail of oil. 16 written messages and 1 recorded, he bellowed. Ravyn and the other robots hurried to his side. Bashful smeared the oil trail across the floor. Dopey rumbled in the background. Records aren't for messages, you fool. Records are for music. I remember the music. Tra-la-la. Ravyn shook her head and focused back on Leaky. He looked up at her. The recorded messages from a friend of yours, Jerry. Based on what I saw in the district, he's taken up a kind of leadership role in the rebellion? Ravyn nodded. She wasn't surprised. Jerry had been born for leadership. If only he'd had the chance. Put it up. Leaky stepped back and projected a dim hologram into the air. Ravyn and the robots formed a circle around Jerry's familiar face. Ravyn, I'm glad that you're okay, although my blood boiled when I saw what they'd done to your cheeks. I can't say much. The escorts have checked on me 3 times this week. I just wanted you to know that Atoll says hello. He's okay, just a little roughed up. We've had trouble getting any kinds of supplies here, whether food or other things. I'm not sure how much longer the people will stay strong. It's hard to fight on an empty stomach. Still, we're ready to move as soon as you give the word. Stay safe. The hologram disappeared. Leaky swiveled to face Ravyn. Most of the written notes are from traders regarding weapons and smuggling food to the Undesirables. Good. We'll go through them and get orders sent as soon as possible. A spurt of oil shot out of Leaky's neck. It's getting unsafe. They suspect you're using robots. I won't be able to make many more trips. Ravyn frowned, using her sleeve to wipe a drop of oil off the table. All right, I'll try to think of another way. One of the written messages is from your friend, Dorabella, Leaky said, handing over a crumpled piece of yellowed paper. Ravyn unfolded it and read the spidery handwriting. Dorabella's usual perfect letters squiggled across the page with jagged corners. A droplet of water had made some of the ink spread. Ravyn, I'm being watched. Don't try to contact me. I'm sorry. For everything. Ravyn took a deep breath and scrunched the note in her fist. If they hurt Dorabella... She shook her head. Dorabella would be fine. She always was. But if she knew something bad was happening, then it had to be even worse than Ravyn had feared. We've managed to smuggle a small number of weapons into the city. They're not enough for everyone, but at least there's something, said Doc. Won't do no good, Grumpy said, crossing his arms. There's not enough, and the people who have 'em don't know how to use 'em. Oil dribbled out of Leaky's neck and splattered the floor. Things are getting bad in there, real bad. The people are starving. Ravyn sighed and looked again at the map of the kingdom. The Undesirables had been suffering for weeks, and she was still no closer to finding a way into the castle. The Queen may as well have been living in a bomb-proof bunker. Dopey's motor whirred louder. Starving? You don't know starving. Back when I had legs before the war, that was starving. One time... Grumpy smacked his palm against Dopey's main processor, and the older computer fell silent. Oh boy, it looks like we're in for a treat. Happy's voice filled the room. We're receiving an encoded message. Everyone's eyes flew to the screen. Ravyn snatched the map and hurled it behind the bench where Bashful did his best to drag it out of sight. The screen burst into life with an image of the Queen. This is for Ravyn and her fellow traitors. I've had enough of chasing you and toying with you. Life without the Undesirables is uncomfortable, and I want it to end. For that reason, I'm sending you this private message with a very special incentive. Queen Elena reached outside of the frame of view, and when she ripped her hand back, she clutched a man's collar. He stared at the ground as the Queen's mouth stretched into a cruel grin. Ravyn gasped and stepped forward. Atoll! The Queen shoved Atoll away and continued to smile, her expression turning predatory. I believe he means quite a lot to you, traitor. Here's my offer. Turn yourself into the castle, give up your ridiculous little rebellion, and I'll let him live. Continue to stand against me, and I will make his death more painful than anything you can imagine." Ravyn swallowed, her hand held out to the screen where Atoll had disappeared. Queen Elena twirled her hand. "I am sure I don't have to elaborate. Be at the castle within the next 5 days, or he's dead. Don't make me ask twice. He's just an undesirable, and there are plenty more where he came from. I wonder how many of your friends you'd let die." Ravyn shook her head and let out a choked gasp. "She can't mean it. She can't kill him. In case you doubt me, I want you to know I've killed more undesirables than I can count, and I won't hesitate to kill another." The screen flickered and went black, leaving behind a stunned silence. Ravyn fell to her knees. Atoll had been like a father to her. How could she possibly abandon him? She used the bench to haul herself back to her feet and leant against it, gasping. "I can't let her do that to Atoll." Doc frowned and hurried to her side. He laid a hand on her arm. "I know he means a lot to you, but nothing. He's like a father." Doc's motors clicked. "We can't sacrifice everything we've worked for. Can't sacrifice you just for one man." Ravyn's stomach rolled and she whirled to face Doc. "What gives you any right to say? You don't know him, don't know what he's like. He would do anything for anyone, even a stranger, and I'm not going to abandon him." "But what about everyone else? What about the plan?" Ravyn shook off his hand and glared at him. "We'll just have to find a different plan. I will not abandon Atoll." Grumpy's motor growled and he thumped his fist against the bench. "We hit the shipments." Doc's joints screeched and he glared at Grumpy. "You can't mean—" Grumpy threw his hands into the air. "Why the hell not? It's her one weakness and we're in a perfect position to take advantage of it. You know how well guarded they are, and so? If you want this to be the big change you've been dreaming of, then we're going to have to take our chances. This is a better plan than most." Ravyn stepped forward. "What are you talking about?" Doc sighed and turned to face her. "The Calanto I told you about, that keeps the queen young. Grumpy wants to take the next shipment." Ravyn's throat went dry and she bit her lip. Grumpy thrust his finger towards Doc. "It's a good plan, and you know it." After a pause, Ravyn shook her head. "We can't risk it. The queen said if we stand against her, she'll kill Atoll." "I don't give a damn!" Grumpy roared, throwing his arms wide. "We took your sorry ass in when you needed it, and I've gone along with your ridiculous plan. Now, as soon as it affects you, you want to give up. I won't have it." Steam billowed out of Grumpy's joints and his engine whirred harder. Doc laid a hand on Grumpy's arm. "Take it easy. This is not the time to blow another gasket." Ravyn swallowed and stared down at her feet. Grumpy was right. They'd all put their lives on the line for her, and she couldn't give up at the first sign of trouble. But then, what about Atoll? "The shipments are the only way we can get control of her. We'll use them to ransom for your friend," Grumpy said, his voice softer. Ravyn's heart raced as she lifted her head and stared Grumpy in the eye. After a few moments she nodded once, and Grumpy's shoulders relaxed. The steam stopped pouring out of his joints, and his motor returned to its usual steady hum. Doc took a deep breath and stepped back to the bench. "It's not going to be easy. They're always strongly guarded." "So we kill the escort," Grumpy said with a shrug. "She won't be able to get fresh Calanto for at least a month. That'll make her desperate, and that's exactly what we need." Doc ran his finger along the map from a small border town labelled Trin along the main road to the capital. "That's where the wagon goes." Ravyn nodded. "Good, so we gather a small force and ambush it when it goes past. How long?" "Another week," said Grumpy. "She must be running low already because we've been sent mining targets twice as big as usual." "So they might leave early," Doc mused. "We'll have to be ready for that. We need to gather a force as soon as possible and have them wait on the road. They can signal us if they see the wagon coming." Ravyn pointed to a bend in the road. The map showed it curving around a small cliff. That's where we'll get them. It's a blind corner, plenty of cover, and far enough from the city that they won't be able to get reinforcements in time. Grumpy nodded. She put her hands on her hips and looked up at Doc. I'm going. I'll help take the wagon. Doc held up his hands. Whoa, I don't think so. If you get taken, then we lose everything. Ravyn whipped her head to the side. That's not the point. I have to do something. I've already waited too long relying on others. If I'm going to lead this rebellion, then I have to start leading. Look, there'll be plenty of time for leading and being heroic, but now isn't it. Ravyn didn't look away from Doc's stern gaze. I'm the one that wants to risk our plan to save Adol. I have to take responsibility for that. She swallowed, her throat dry. Doc opened his mouth, but no noise came out. His motor whirred. You realize that if something goes wrong, then we could lose the whole rebellion. It won't go wrong. Doc shrugged and turned back to the map. Together with Grumpy and Leaky, they formed a plan for ambushing the wagon. Ravyn's heart flooded high in her chest and didn't stop as the night darkened. End chapter. Make sure to like and subscribe so you'll know when the next chapter is released.